Hey everybody, and welcome back to Life with Lolo. It's time for our weekly recap of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. This is season 1, and this is the reunion part 3. All right, so this is the final reunion episode. Praise God. Before I jump into the recap review for it, if you are not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell. And if you end up liking this recap review, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button along with the share button. All right, y'all. So this episode, we just brought the husbands out, and they kind of just talked about that. Everybody, well, it picked up where it left off, where Lisa was venting to her husband about stuff, and then she ended up coming back on the stage and stuff. And then we saw the husbands getting on there. We saw Andy talking to the husbands. Seth is in Canton, Ohio, so he is via the TV screen, and Robert Sr., he's back in Utah because he didn't want to travel related to COVID. I don't know where they did the reunion at, but obviously he had to get on a flight or something like that, and he didn't want to go. So now it's a segment of the men. They show, did they show any segments with them? I think they showed segments of the men or whatever, or their difficulty in their relationships and stuff. And a question came up to Lisa saying like they were mad that she had threw her husband's Rolex out the window. So then she tells us why she ended up doing it. So apparently she picked him up from the airport. It was her birthday. This fool ain't remember her birthday. He ain't say, happy birthday to her or whatever. And she was like, ain't he forgetting to say something? And so their birthdays are a month apart. So she had gave him a Rolex, I guess, on his birthday. So he was like, well, you can have this Rolex back, and took it off. And she was like, if you got 10 seconds to put that back on your arm, or I'm throwing it out the window. He didn't, so she threw it out the window near a Taco Bell and all that other stuff, child. He still got the watch on, because remember, she said they pulled over, and he went and picked that Rolex up. I don't blame him. So then what else happened, child? They asked Coach Shaw if he valued football more than his family, and why wasn't he there at the funeral. He said that he came up maybe like a couple days before the father died, and he was, talking to him and stuff, and the father was only responsive to Coach Shaw. And in Jen's like she wasn't ready for her father to go, so she got mad with him, saying like if you had been here before, he wouldn't have died, or not died, he wouldn't have became sick, and he would have been able to live a little bit longer or whatever. And that's, if he was about to die, he was about to die. So he was like, well, I was there for the wake, I was there every day in the years before that, so he feels like he put his time in or whatever. And then Andy asked Jen, was she going to be able to forgive Coach Shaw for not being at the funeral? And she said that, it was some difficult times and stuff, and he could only do what he could do or whatever. It didn't sound like she was accepting that he wasn't at the funeral, because with Jen, it seemed like stuff just even though you feel like you solved something, she'll just bring it back up. Oh, well, you wasn't at the funeral. And it's like, girl, we solved that 5 years ago. Why are you still talking about the funeral? So I don't know. She didn't say that she would let it go, but she said that it was a difficult time or whatever. So hopefully she'll let it go. Then they went to Justin, and somehow it came on divorce or something like that. And they asked Justin, was he still a member of the church? And he said that he wasn't a member of the Mormon church anymore, but we already knew that. And he said he received a letter, and Andy was like, oh, you received a letter recently? He was like, no, 10 years ago I received a letter saying that, I was out of the church, or out of the church, basically out of the religion. They kicked him out the Mormon church or whatever. So he was saying like, what's the man name? Andy was like, oh wow, so they kicked you out. So Andy, like, did you not watch the show? Did you not know the background story? Because they had said that on the show, because Whitney and what's his name, Justin, were both married at the time, and they were seeing each other. They were basically adultering on, cheating on their spouses and stuff. So that's why they both got booted out the church or whatever, because they don't play with their adultery stuff, which I think no church should. And I feel like everybody should get, but I mean, then again, people deserve a second chance. But whatever. But anyway, thou shalt not, do adultery and stuff like that. They both got kicked out. They had said this on the show, Andy, but I don't, whatever. So, because Andy thought it was because they got divorced from their spouses. And I'm like, no, they said it on the show that they was cheating on their spouses. But then Lisa said, well, I don't think it got to be with divorce because her husband, what is his name, John or something? I don't know his name. He was, John. He was divorced before, and then she was like, "Well, my parents was divorced. Like, it's not a big deal or whatever." She made it seem like, it's not anything big to be kicked out of the church. So then Andy asked them, like, "Well, what was it?" And so then they had to explain, like, we was both cheating. So then, he was saying, like, Justin was saying, like, they do their own belief system, and he wished they would have gave a tithe and rebate. I was cracking up. So then Heather had got like, did Heather get? Yeah, Heather got all emotional or something, saying like, she said something like, I wish, because I guess in the church they still acknowledge her and her husband as being married, even though she got divorced. And then Lisa was saying, well, you can cancel the seal or something like that. And then he was saying, like, they're sealed together in the temple. And I don't understand the religion, and I don't want to sound ignorant about it. But for some reason, if they do like an extra step, they, even though they are divorced on paper and everything like that, if they do something in the church, then that means they're still married and they have to go through like something else. So it's like a double divorce they have to go through or something like that. I was just like, oh, wow. Then they went to Robert and asked him like what he felt and stuff. And Mary was getting on my nerves because she just kept talking. No, you don't. No, you don't. Don't embarrass me. Don't. I was just like, girl, shut up. Let the man talk. So Robert is upset about the whole grandfather stuff. He said it was quite ridiculous or whatever. And he was hesitant about Mary going on the show or whatever. And he said that he knew that everything that happened was going to happen. And then she was like, well, me and Jim made up, so you coming on the tail end of stuff. And he was like, oh, okay, well, I'll calm down or whatever, but I'm going to still voice my opinion. So they asked about the unconventional wedding and stuff, and he was saying like everything is not about money. People think that we got married because of the money, and it's not all about the money or whatever. And then he said he was 22 when he got married. So I'm like, what? He was that young? Like, how old was well, she did say the grandma was older than him. Which, how many years she said? I thought she said, like, did she say, like, 20 years older? So the grandma was 42. He was 22. And so he was like, I wasn't even a grandfather to nobody. That's weird. Like, your grandfather younger than you or the same age as you? That's so weird. But, whatever. Grandma was a cougar. So he said he was 22 when he married Mary, and they've been married for 22 years. So that would make him, what, 44? He seems so much older to me. Like, do he seem older to y'all, or is it just me? He seems like I thought he was like in his 50s or 60s, y'all. I did not think this man was like 44 years old. He just seems so much older. But he was just saying like he was nobody's grandfather, and he wished people would stop saying the grandfather stuff because it's ridiculous. And then he was saying like he married his wife 22 years ago, and they they have their ups and downs, but any marriage would for 22 years. And he was saying like she's his equal, she's my co-pastor, and what else? He was saying like all these good things. She's a good mother, she's a good wife, like all these good things. So then she started getting emotional and stuff. And of course, Andy was like, well, why are you getting emotional? And she was like, because, it's just good to hear him say these things about me, and he knows me better than anybody or whatever. And I think she said something about she didn't give Mary a chance. And then they ended up saying like, getting out that both the men were hurt. Robert was hurt about what Jen said. Coach Shaw was hurt about what Jen said about Robert. So then he apologized to Robert Sr. And he gave like some little pep talk and stuff. Y'all know how Coach Shaw do, child. And then they was both on the same page and stuff like that. So then we go on to Whitney's segment, and then we find out that Whitney, which I was surprised, her father, she said they had built like a great foundation after the show and everything like that. And then like after her birthday, she hasn't heard from him. So I was like, oh wow, I hope and pray that he did not fall off the wagon, because he seemed to be doing so good. But she said she texts him like every other day or every 5 days or whatever, and he just does not respond and stuff. So she was like really emotional. And of course she's like breaking inside because she really thought that he was, on the right path and stuff like that. She doesn't know if he's using, but she said he like disappeared. So hopefully, I pray that he did not go back to using, but it doesn't look real good, y'all. I'm like, oh man, because I was rooting for him. I was like, go ahead, daddy, you doing it. So I'm like, I hope he did not get back to them drugs, y'all. I hope not. And then they asked Meredith about her reconciliation with Seth, and she was real dry with it, like, we're good. So Andy was like, you real like dry. She was like, well, do you blame me? Why would I want to talk about my relationship with these group of ladies and stuff? So he was like, okay, I understand. And then when he came back from commercial, she was more open about it. She said that they filed for divorce before the show. Seth had filed for divorce. And then they pulled the divorce back once the show started. And they were saying like the show actually helped them come together as a couple or whatever, because they had to really bury things. They couldn't just bury things and just like walk, cover it up with a rug or whatever like that. They really had to address some issues. They really had to go deep into their relationship, and now they is good. And so Lisa got all emotional because she was like, I'm so happy they're together because I love them so together. It was breaking my heart. It was breaking my heart or whatever. And so then Heather, she chimed in, well, why can't you feel about that? About me, about my divorce and stuff. Like, I'm just telling you, and you just made my divorce feel all nonchalant, and you just dismissed it. And then Lisa was trying to talk, but Heather kept talking over, so I don't really know what Lisa was saying. So it was just like, Heather, it's not all about you, boo, okay? She not that emotional about your divorce because she not friends with you like that. So she more friends with Meredith, so of course she gonna be more like invested and more emotional that Meredith and Seth are getting divorced versus you and whatever your husband name was. Like, she don't know you like that. So just, girl, shh. It's okay. It's okay, Heather. It's okay. She was getting on my nerves. I was like, I like Heather, but she was getting on my nerves, y'all. Then we see something about Jen. Somehow it came up about Jen talking about behind Meredith's back and stuff like that. And Jen was saying like she wasn't the only one. So she wasn't taking accountability for what she did. And Meredith was basically like, you was talking Isha behind my back about what was going on, and you was starting the rumors and all this other stuff. And she was trying to make it like, well, I wasn't the only one. But we're not talking about everybody else. We're talking about you specifically right now, not the rest of the group or whatever. So, she was just like projecting on other people and stuff like that. And it was like, girl, like, focus on what you doing, okay? She mad at with you right now. And so then Whitney was saying like she was getting to know Meredith, so she was trying to find out information. And when Meredith kept shutting her down, she should have just let it go and let Meredith tell her when, she wanted to tell her or whatever. And so Jenna finally apologizes to Meredith and Seth, and then Jen apologized to Robert and Meredith again for, jumping into their business, their marital affairs and all this other stuff. And Mary had to step in and was like, well, you're a fighter with your words. And when you say certain words, you can't get those back. Those stick with people, and you can't burn all the bridges that you're trying to build and stuff like that. So I guess she tried to, get on top of it and stuff like that. Then they say bye to the husbands. And then we find out that they wrapped up their filming right before COVID closure. So I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because I was like, well, they ain't wearing no masks. They having all these big ass parties. So it makes sense that they filmed right before. So they must have filmed, because closure started like in March when stuff started shutting down. So they must have filmed like maybe like December to March or somewhere before everything started shutting down. So that makes more sense. Because I was like, why they ain't wearing no masks? Why they having like 100 people at these parties? So it makes sense, y'all. It makes sense. But anyway, what else happened, child? Oh, so then they were saying like about Jen getting closure and stuff, because like, you don't forgive people easily or something like that. And she was like, because they brought up the whole Whitney thing and how it got blown back up and whatever after the whole apology. And she was saying like, I forgive people, but I just need closure and stuff. And so then it came up with Meredith at the season finale, how Meredith was talking to Lisa, and it seemed like she was telling Lisa like, you need to take sides. And she was like, no, I wasn't trying to take sides or telling her to take sides. I was just basically trying to figure out their relationship because I don't understand it or whatever. And so then they was talking about how Jen preaches loyalty, but she doesn't give any loyalty and stuff. And then so everybody raised their hand saying that Jen really wasn't loyal, minus Lisa. She was the only one who didn't raise her hand. And so then Meredith was like, well, not Lisa, Jen, I want to ask you a question. If I were to treat you the way you treat me, would you think I was loyal to you, or was I a good friend? And she admitted like no. She was like no, or whatever. And so then she was like, but I feel like you only putting it at me. She was like, I'm not. I was just asking you a question right there. That was simply a question. She was like, okay, whatever. What else, child? Who? Oh, Jen and Heather, they made up at the party. So they really did make up at the party and stuff like that. They stayed up till like 3 a.m. or whatever. And then, but Heather was like, look, I'm trying to be her friend, but I'm not going to eat shit all the time. Like, I really want to be her friend. I value the friendship and stuff like that, but I'm just not going to eat shit. And I really felt her in that moment right there. Like, I'm not going to keep eating what you want me to eat because that's how you feel. Like, don't put that shit on me or whatever. So she was like, well, what am I doing? What am I saying? What am I saying? She was like, you know what you're saying. You know what you're saying. So then Andy was like, well, give her an example. Child, she said, when she bust out with, well, she keeps saying I buy my dresses off a dress barn, and she feels like she's going to be some type of actress or whatever like that. But the only role she going to get is either a manatee or Shrek. I said, I was uncomfortable. I said, who says that about a friend? And so, of course, Jen denies it. She says she don't remember saying that, and it was probably a reaction about something that happened or whatever. And I'm like, girl, I don't care. If that's supposed to be your friend, why would you react like that? Like, that's a drastic reaction to something that your friend said. If that's supposed to be like your friend, like your bestie, your boom or whatever, why would you blow up and say something like that? Like, I'm not that type of person. Like, I may be mad with you or whatever, but I'm not going to dig and go all this hurt and stuff like that. That's crazy to me. Like, y'all not really friends for all that. Like, girl, she was like, well, you keep putting it on social media and you keep doing all this stuff or whatever. And I don't really think she apologized. Did she apologize? I don't think she apologized or whatever to her. So then Mary, we saw her going to sleep over there. Andy asking Mary a question. I said, why he asked her a question? He knows she fell asleep. But then she did answer the question. She did say, like, she feels as though Jen was trying to make a dig at Heather when she raised her hand at the thing, saying, like, she didn't trust her or whatever. And so then it gets into this whole, well, the lady, when she walked into the thing, and I guess the thing was like 4 hours or whatever. When she walked into the thing, the lady was like, they feel as though you're a bully and you're aggressive and they're trying to understand and don't talk, don't say nothing or whatever because you're a bully and yada, yada, yada. And so she really felt some type of way. And so that's why Lisa said that she contacted her because she saw how the lady was treating her. Like, the lady was kind of rough from what we saw, but I didn't know she was going like all digging into her like that. And then she was saying like the lady told her she was like a piece of shit or something. Like, that it was a lot that the lady said or whatever. So I feel like the lady should have been, not the lady, Jen should have been coming at the lady like, yo, like, chill the fuck out. Like, you don't talk to me like that. Versus going after Heather, because Heather ain't say it. But then it got on the whole aggressive stuff. And so she was saying, like, you can't be calling a woman of color aggressive because that hurts and that means something much more and all this other stuff. And so Heather was like, but you were being aggressive. Like, you're being aggressive now. Like, that's what you're being. And so she was like, but you don't get it, because if you call a woman of color aggressive, then you make accusations of a woman of color, and then you said I was threatening you and all this other stuff. And then they showed the clips where she did say it was threatening. And she was like, but it's a double standard. If somebody says, oh, Jen's being threatening, yada, 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 then they're going to lock me up. Versus if Whitney is saying, and they just going to be like, oh, she just joking or whatever like that. And I understand that. I have been in Jen's shoes a lot, where you are an assertive person, you're a confident person, you may say certain things and you stand up for yourself, and then people will look at you and be like, oh, well, you being too aggressive, you being too direct, you being too X, Y, and Z, and you're the only I'm gonna just say you the only black person in a job full of lighter white people, and they're looking at you like, oh, well, you're aggressive, you're the bully. But then this white person over here doing the exact same thing as you, and they are like, oh, okay, Karen, all right, girl, all right. They don't write Karen up, they don't do none of this with Karen. But when it comes to you, they want to write you up and do all this other stuff. So I have been where Jen is, and I understand what she's saying. However, if your demeanor is coming off in an aggressive tone, or you yelling, you screaming, you doing all this X, Y, and Z, you hitting people, you getting all in their face, and then you threaten them on top of that, and then you all with this aggression and bravado and stuff like that, then that's how it's coming across. It's not coming across that you're being direct or you're just being assertive. It's coming off that you're being aggressive because you're yelling, you're screaming, you're throwing glasses, you're doing like all this stuff. So I would have called her aggressive too, and I'm black. Like, you was being aggressive. Like, if you can say what you need to say without getting all this on my face or throwing glasses or like, you can say all of these things. You can say things that's not going to be in a threatening way or whatever. Now, if you just be like, girl, if you don't be quiet, I'm gonna punch you in your face, or like, that's a threat. Like, that is a threat. Like, that is a threat, and some people don't take that kindly. Yes, it is white privilege, and everybody understands that. Everybody on the stage said they understood it and stuff like that. However, if your attitude and behavior is coming off in a way where you're scaring people because they don't know you or know where your heart is or know who you are as a person, then they're going to take that in a different way. And there could be a white person, a black person, a Mexican person, or whatever person. If you are all that with Jen, I'd have been looking at her like, oh, she real aggressive. And like, I'm black. She was being aggressive. At that in Las Vegas, when she hit Heather and then got all up in Whitney's face, that was being aggressive. At the birthday party, when she threw the glass and was doing all this yelling and, fuck that was being aggressive. Like, that was being aggressive. Like, you just too much. In the thing on, when they was trying on shoes and stuff, and she was talking about Whitney and all this yelling and screaming, and I'm only for aggression. Like, but you can say what you want to say and it'd be okay or whatever. I mean, she like, I don't feel like I gotta teach you. She like, you, I'm not asking you to teach me or nothing like that. I'm just asking you to understand and not make accusations. So then of course Jen storms off. She gets all upset. She goes to crying to her husband, saying they don't understand it because they're not black or a woman of color and all this other stuff. And then she comes back and then she's calmly telling them, like, I understand y'all may not understand it because y'all grew up in Utah and you wouldn't know or whatever. So then you're telling them in a calm manner. Like, it's a way you can tell people how you feel without them feeling like you are attacking them or being aggressive or whatever. Like, I feel as though the word is, I don't find offense to the word. If I feel like I'm being, like, you feel like I'm being aggressive, tell me I'm being aggressive. And I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe you sensitive. But but for real, I mean, I might say, okay, maybe I'm being aggressive. Let me take a step back or whatever. But I don't feel like Jen can swallow that or can understand that or take accountability for that. But she said at the end, she gonna work on communicating and all this other stuff. Jen and Mary made up at the end. Lisa says she wants to work on listening more. Mary says she wants to work on communicating. Jen says she wants to work on communicating and that her friends can trust her more or whatever. Whitney says she wants to work on timing and finding her own voice. Meredith said that she gave everyone kindness and respect, but she didn't receive that in return. She said that Heather and Whitney apologized to her and she feels like Jen's apology was genuine. And she's forgiving everybody for herself, but trust needs to be earned. And I respect that wholeheartedly. Heather said that she needs to speak up and not hold back. And then Andy did like a meatball toast because they had some meatballs and then snow was falling from the sky. Why was Mary trying to eat the fake snow? And then that was how the episode ended, y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all felt about it. What y'all thought about the episode, what y'all feel about the whole aggression versus black women and versus white women. I do believe it is a double standard there. However, I believe if your behavior is showing aggression, then that's what it is. But at any rate, that's just my opinion. Y'all can agree or disagree. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, I mean, y'all opinion matters. I mean, it just won't like really affect me anyway. But anyway, y'all, if you're not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified when I drop new videos. Also, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. I'm sure somebody will hit the thumbs down. Whatever. And then hit the share button to share it with your friends, family, co-workers, neighbors, whoever. Okay. And I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.